What is up, Dallas Mavericks fans and MFFLs? I know it has been a long while, but we are now officially back, especially after the Dallas Mavericks made that NBA Finals run last year versus the Boston Celtics. We know how that played out, but going to the offseason, of course, this team was looking to get better, looking to add more shooting, more offensive firepower, I guess you can call it, in general, and just seeing some of the young guys, like a guy like Dereck Lively, seeing what improvements he could add to his game. A guy like PJ Washington now going into the second year, essentially, the first full regular season with the team, but the first full year of seeing what a guy like PJ Washington, I guess you want to say whatever skill set he was able to add to his game. You're going to be obviously working with guys like Kyrie Irving. We know the skill sets that he has and I just want to say the dangerous firepower that he brings. But obviously, again, talking about bringing in more firepower, the Dallas Mavericks are obviously able to bring in a guy like Klay Thompson, and which is crazy because it's all talked about. Klay Thompson's not the same guy, whether defensively or whatever it is. But when you're talking about a guy in the NBA who's going to be able to take and make a whole lot of wide open three-point shots, that's exactly what you're looking for when you added a guy like Klay Thompson. I'm going to say he is going to be one of those pieces that we're going to be looking towards the entire season, especially knocking on wood, keeping everybody healthy. He's going to take this team up another notch. And I'm going to say last year, I believe, we obviously saw the pieces you added in a Daniel Gafford, a PJ Washington, some of those other guys. And then also what you're looking into adding and getting rid of, I guess you can say addition by subtraction, getting a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. off your roster and bringing in a guy like Quentin Grimes. And also, in my opinion, a guy like Jaden Hardy, who I feel has big six-man of the year type capabilities if he's able to unlock some other aspects of his game. And especially, we know he can do that because Kyrie Irving is his mentor. So it's just a lot to see for the Dallas Mavericks going into this season because obviously, again, going into what you're looking for, Dereck Lively to take another step up because obviously he was the number one. I'm going to say, obviously, you could talk about a Luka Doncic. You could talk about Kyrie Irving. You could talk about now just adding some of those guys I talked about, even a Najee Marshall from the New Orleans Pelicans, who's going to be one of those grimy grit players. He has some offensive capability, especially a guy we're talking about who has, in certain points of a game, you're going to be able to see if he can handle the rock a little bit. But adding some of those capabilities, you're going to look to say, what exactly did Dereck Lively add to his game? Because he's now going to be able to take a leap. Because going into, I guess you were going to say, the playoff series going into the Los Angeles Clippers, you didn't really know what to expect from a rookie, especially you're talking about a rookie center. The big man position is very vital to the Dallas Mavericks because we need a guy down there who can protect the rim, who can rebound when we need to, and also be able to take down some easy lobs that you know with Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving, and now some of these other guys, like I said, throwing in a Spencer Dinwiddie who's going to be making a return. And I'm going to say he's going to be maybe a guy towards the end of the bench who you're going to see maybe get some spot minutes and some spot playing time if you're able to try to get a Luka Doncic or a Kyrie Irving a bit of a breather throughout the season, I guess you could say. But a guy like Dereck Lively, we know exactly what he can be, but he started to show it a lot more during the playoffs, and he's a big reason why we were able to make the NBA Finals run. And then that is still not to take away anything that Daniel Gafford brings because he is still that veteran presence, a guy that's been here for a little while, and he's still, again, we're talking about a guy in their not even late 20s, but their mid 20s, and these are going to be some guys that we're going to be looking to see what they add in going into year 2 with this team. So, but Dereck Lively, obviously, when you're going to be looking at one of the biggest matchups you're going to be facing many times, of Victor Wembanyama facing off against the San Antonio Spurs in Game 1 last night. The Dallas Mavericks were able to come away with a victory at home, 120-109. This is a great way to start the season because you have so many new pieces, and I'm going to say so many new contributing pieces. Not just guys you're adding to your roster, to your bench, and seeing what they can bring. You're adding in a guy like Klay Thompson, so you need him to be a vital key to this team, and that's going to say a Dereck Lively. You need a step above. You need Luka Doncic to try to stay healthy this year. Obviously, a lot of that sometimes is not really even in your realm of your fault or anything like that because we do know Luka Doncic, he plays so much and he plays so hard, and he gets a lot of flack. We're talking about defensively or whatever it is, but Luka Doncic does so much for the Dallas Mavericks, and he's done that since he stepped foot in the league. And obviously, Kyrie Irving, we do know we count on him a lot. So if we're able to stay healthy, this team can be very dangerous. Obviously, you have so many naysayers just because they're saying, what exactly is Klay Thompson still at this point of his career? But even in a down year last year, we're talking about Klay Thompson was a guy who was still one of the top shooters in the league. And we're talking about, again, in a down year. So if you're going to be able to get so many wide open shots that the playmaking ability of a Klay Thompson, from a Luka Doncic, or a Kyrie Irving, this is going to be major. But again, the Dallas Mavericks got off on the right foot in Game 1 last night against the San Antonio Spurs with a 120-109 victory. Let's talk about some of these key factors to that victory last night. Luka Doncic did not play much at all during the preseason because, again, he was dealing with a bit of a calf injury. And that took away a lot of this gelling and developmental time. You're talking about adding in some of these new key factors like a Klay Thompson. But Luka Doncic, we know exactly what he is in this league. We're talking about a perennial MVP caliber type player. And again, coming into this year, one of the top favorites. We have seen that many years at this point. But Luka Doncic not really getting any preseason work and not getting much playing, I guess you want to say practice time with his teammates. You're now looking to see what can he be. Obviously, in the first half of this game, if you paid any attention, you could see Luka Doncic was a little bit rusty. And again, that was to be expected in my opinion because he had not got many, I guess you want to say much court time coming into the regular season. But Luka Doncic in about 36 minutes, and I believe 9 of 25 on field goals, still ends up with 28 points, I believe 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and we're talking about some beautiful assists. One behind the back, driving to the basket to PJ Washington for a corner 3. And obviously, I'm watching the game, hoping PJ Washington does not miss that shot because we know Luka Doncic is going to find himself in one of the top passing plays of the league of the year, as always in the NBA. So just one of those spectacular plays. But also, what you saw from Luka Doncic last night was just the respect and the trust that you can see he's starting to build with some of these guys. Even talking about a guy like Klay Thompson, there were a couple shot attempts. You saw Luka Doncic whips the ball out behind the three-point line to a Klay Thompson, and he's pretty much heading up the court before Klay even takes a shot. And a couple times, Klay Thompson knocks it down. So Luka Doncic, again, just showing that he does have that trust in his teammates, especially the older veterans. We're talking about a 4-time champion in Klay Thompson. You cannot do anything but be grateful that we have a player like that because you already know Kyrie Irving coming into this season last year was pretty much your only one who had major deep playoff, I guess you want to say playoff history outside of the year Luka Doncic had when we went to the Western Conference Finals. Jalen Brunson was on that team, Spencer Dinwiddie. But outside of that, we're talking about championship, I guess you want to say championship, just credibility. Kyrie Irving was your only one. Adding a guy like Klay Thompson in, who I believe in 26 minutes, ends up with 22 points, 7 rebounds. And to me, one of the biggest things, obviously, we could talk about the shooting. We could talk about what he's going to bring from the team from an outside perimeter aspect. But what Klay Thompson showed last night, he still can get in there and find out, I guess you want to say, end up with some of those dirty plays. Those plays you don't really like to talk about. He's down there on the low post a little bit. And certain times, obviously, he's not a low post player, but when you see Klay Thompson coming down with some nice big rebounds down there in traffic, and some of those dirty plays are what's going to make this team step up another level because you are adding in some grit and grimy players like a Najee Marshall, so a guy like Quentin Grimes. I'm saying you're adding some of these pieces that are coming in here pretty much just trying to make a name for themselves in their own specific role. And having a guy like Klay Thompson who is able to do that, and just again being able to expect him just to be that shooter, but showing that if you're going to work hard, the other guys behind you, the younger guys, should do nothing but follow behind that. So it's a great sight to see because what you did not have to expect from a guy like Kyrie Irving last night, who we pretty much going into the last season and in the middle of last season, I'll say, you counted on Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to put up big numbers almost every night, or else our offense was going to struggle majorly. Kyrie Irving last night, I believe on 6 of 17, I believe on field goals, ends up with about 15 points. So this is not even a game that we needed him to just be that, I guess you want to say that stereo, that I guess you want to say the prototypical level of Kyrie Irving that I guess you want to say become accustomed to over the years, but especially since his tenure with the Dallas Mavericks. This was just a game where you saw a lot of guys chip in, Luka Doncic doing what he does, setting guys up, knocking out some shots, getting more comfortable in the second half, I will say, talking about that calf injury Luka's been dealing with coming into the regular season. The second half is where you saw Luka start to get a little bit more comfortable, knock down some shots, I believe 4 of 11 from behind the three-point line. So if we can continue that and just as a team shoot better from the free throw line than we did last year, this team is going to take a major step forward. But again, not having to count on a guy like Kyrie Irving to come in here and put up big numbers and still pulling out a win because of the firepower that you did add in a guy like Klay Thompson, and then having more of an opportunity in a guy like Jaden Hardy, who off the bench I believe had about 11 points. And this is going to be a guy I'm going to look forward to. Say again, I said multiple times last year, I believe he has 6th man of the year potential if he's able just to get those opportunities and he can round out his game a bit. But no longer having a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr., who we know he can be very hot and cold, and especially towards the end of the time with the Dallas Mavericks, it was a lot more cold. Jaden Hardy's going to be able to get those same opportunities, and we know if he can get hot, he's a microwave shooter. He will put lots of buckets up very quickly. So the Dallas Mavericks have lots of potential to improve, and lots of some of these other guys. Again, we're talking about a team that has not really even gelled and gotten to play with each other much. So we're going to continue to get better, and being able to add some of these raw and gritty players that the Dallas Mavericks were able to bring to this team, I believe the sky really is the limit. We already know what PJ Washington brings to this team, just that versatile type, all-around type player, I guess you could say. 11 points, I believe 5 rebounds, a couple assists, and also Daniel Gafford, who did get the start. And a lot of people obviously were expecting a guy like Derek Lively to be pretty much penciled in as that starter at the center position. But Jason Kidd, he wants to bring it along slowly, allow the roles to develop themselves. And we know Daniel Gafford out there, again, still a veteran presence, I guess you can somewhat say at this point. I believe in about 19 minutes, ended up with 9 points, 6 rebounds, had a nice block. And also you're looking at a guy, I believe, who was in foul trouble last night with 5 fouls. So what are you going to be counting on? Derek Lively come in here and be exactly what we're expecting. I believe in 28 minutes for Derek Lively. We're talking about 15 points, 11 rebounds, and just a low post presence. You were not able to see a guy down there. Let's talk about a Victor Wembanyama, who I believe put 17, 18 points. It was nothing major. It was not a crazy night or anything, because you saw the pressure that guys like Gafford, and you saw certain guys, a little bit of a switch up. You saw Klay Thompson, but a lot of times you saw a guy like Derek Lively just putting some of that pressure on him. This is going to be a good team, the Dallas Mavericks I'm talking about, if we're able just to keep guys healthy and keep guys on the uptick, meaning improving and showing the capabilities just on a consistent basis. But this team, again, just adding in some of these guys like Najee Marshall, who had a quiet night. We're talking about 2 points. Quentin Grimes somewhere around there too. These are some guys, again, you're going to just be adding in to fit into a specific role on a nightly basis. And some of these shots are going to fall. Let's be clear. Last night, we didn't have the best shooting night, especially from behind the three-point line, or even as a team. It's more so, I'm going to say, in the first half. But when you're talking about the Dallas Mavericks and the potential this team does have, there's a lot to still be unlocked. So if Jason Kidd can just get guys in the right space and keep guys healthy, obviously, that's the number one most important thing, especially we're talking about a team who does have some guys who can kind of get a little banged up here and there. Nothing crazy, but just a little banged up. You're talking about a team that, again, has potential to find themselves back in the Western Conference Finals. And we know once you're talking about a deep Western Conference, who's going to be a team, obviously teams are going to be much better. You're seeing what the Pelicans could potentially be this year. But a guy getting a team like the Grizzlies, getting a Ja Morant back and a Zach Edey, who they drafted in the first round. This is going to be a team, and I guess in the Dallas Mavericks, who's going to be you're going to be battle tested by the time you get to the postseason, because you have lots of things to still face. Obviously, the OKC Thunder. You're talking about now, I guess you want to call it a new look Minnesota Timberwolves. Julius Randle being taken from the Knicks, and Karl Anthony Towns no longer with the Wolves, who also got sent off to New York. This is going to be a Western Conference with a lot of new faces. You're looking at still Jokic. You're looking at the OKC Thunder again. You're looking at, they're just some of these teams that Dallas Mavericks are going to have to face off with. That's going to do nothing but help this team improve and get better and better as the season goes on. So as always, I appreciate you guys. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share. Again, the Dallas Mavericks did take down the San Antonio Spurs last night. Final score, Dallas 120, the San Antonio Spurs 109. Again, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Derek Lively, some of these other guys are still throwing in. A Najee Marshall, I feel like he's going to have many games this year. You're going to see, and we're talking about that's a guy I potentially believe can be like one of these fan favorite type players. But then just looking at, again, a PJ Washington, who we know he does everything. This is a hometown kid. He gets to play for his hometown team. So this is going to be exciting as a Dallas Mavericks fan. Now we have high expectations. We're not coming into seasons anymore hoping the team can be good or hoping we can make some noise. We're expecting it, and we're going to be disappointed if we don't make it happen. So there's lots of pressure on these players now to show and prove on a nightly basis. So I appreciate you guys. As always, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and share as always. And also, have a good rest of your day.